Picture yourself standing on the summit of the Templo Mayor, the great twin pyramid at the heart of the Mexica universe. It is 1519. Below you, the city of Tenochtitlan spreads out like a jeweled fan, a metropolis larger and more immaculate than any in Europe. It is a city built on water, a marvel of engineering where gleaming white temples and palaces seem to float amidst a network of canals and chinampas, the vibrant floating gardens that feed 200,000 souls. The air is alive with sound. The murmur of the Tlatelolco market, the cries of exotic birds in aviaries, the rhythmic chanting of priests. You are an eagle warrior, a member of the elite, and this world is the only one that matters. Your empire stretches from the Gulf Coast to the Pacific, built on tribute and fear. From this height, you can see the causeways connecting your island capital to the mainland, arteries of power through which the wealth of conquered peoples flows. You believe your world is eternal, guaranteed by the gods you feed with the hearts of your enemies. The sun god, Huitzilopochtli, demands this nourishment to continue his daily battle against darkness. Your entire society is structured around this sacred, brutal contract. You feel an immense sense of pride and divine certainty. Your world is perfect, ordered, and unassailable. But far to the east, on the shimmering horizon of the Great Sea, something is coming that is not in your prophecies. A new kind of darkness is approaching, one that no amount of sacrifice can hold back. The rumors arrive first, carried by breathless messengers who have run for days. They speak of impossible things. Floating mountains moving across the water, men with skin the color of bone and hair like the sun's rays. They describe monstrous, hornless deer that they ride upon, creatures that shake the earth with their speed. They tell of sticks that spit fire and thunder, felling a tree from a distance. Moctezuma II, the Huitzilopochtli, the great speaker of your people, is paralyzed by dread. The year is Suacatl, the year of the reed, the very year the exiled god Quetzalcoatl was prophesied to return from the east. Is this him? Are these his divine attendants? The descriptions match the ancient legends. The pale skin, the beards. An entire empire holds its breath. Moctezuma dispatches envoys laden with the finest gifts. Discs of gold and silver as large as cartwheels. Intricate featherwork, turquoise masks. He sends them the raiment of the gods, hoping to appease these newcomers, hoping to confirm their divinity, and perhaps hoping they will take the gifts and leave. The uncertainty is a poison seeping into the capital. Priests consult the calendar, warriors sharpen their obsidian blades, and common people whisper in the markets. What does one do when a god arrives at your shore? Do you welcome him with open arms? Or do you prepare for a war that could offend the heavens? The most powerful man in the Americas is trapped between prophecy and pragmatism, and his indecision will become the crack in the foundation of your world. Imagine you are a warrior from a coastal tribe, ordered to observe the strangers. You watch as Hernán Cortés and his 500 men disembark. The culture shock is absolute. You have never seen steel. Your best weapon is a macuahuitl, a wooden club embedded with razor-sharp obsidian, capable of decapitating a man. But it shatters against their plate armor. They have crossbows that fire bolts with silent lethality. And then there are the horses. You have no large domesticated animals, and seeing a man on horseback creates the illusion of a single, terrifying beast. When they discharge an arquebus, the sound is like the wrath of the storm god, and the smoke smells of dark magic. Cortés, a master of psychological warfare, understands the fear he creates. He stages demonstrations, firing cannons into the jungle and having his cavalry charge on the beach. He is not a god, but a cunning, ruthless lawyer and soldier from a world steeped in centuries of relentless warfare. He sees your gold, and his eyes burn with a hunger you mistake for divine intensity. He sees your division, the simmering hatred that subject tribes feel for the Aztec overlords, and he identifies it not as a weakness of his own position, but as the key to your destruction. Your people see omens and gods. He sees manpower, resources, and strategic advantage. The gap between your worldviews is a canyon, and across it, you cannot possibly understand each other's intentions until it is far too late. Cortés does not march on your capital alone. He is a brilliant politician. As he moves inland, he discovers that the Aztec Empire is not a monolith, but a fractured collection of city-states bound by tribute and terror. Your people, the Mexica, are hated. The Tlaxcalans, in particular, are your mortal enemies, a powerful nation that has resisted Aztec domination for decades. After a series of fierce battles where they test the Spaniards' mettle, the Tlaxcalans make a calculated decision. They see in these strange, metal men not a new conqueror, but a divine weapon to be aimed at the heart of their hated foe, Tenochtitlan. They offer Cortés thousands of their finest warriors, food, and intelligence. Suddenly, the Spanish force of 500 is transformed into an army of thousands. Imagine the sight. A column of men marching through the high mountain passes, the glint of Spanish steel alongside the bright feathers and painted faces of Tlaxcalan warriors. It is a terrifying alliance of worlds. The Spanish bring their technology, their tactics of total war, and their unshakable belief in their own righteousness. The Tlaxcalans bring their numbers, their knowledge of the terrain, and a burning generational hatred for your people. Your empire, which you believed was all-powerful, is being undone not just by outsiders, but by the very people you subjugated. The foundations are crumbling from within, and Cortés is merely the catalyst for a civil war that has been waiting to happen. Moctezuma makes his fateful choice. He will welcome the gods into Tenochtitlan. On November 8, 1519, Cortés and his men march across the Great Causeway, their jaws agape. The Spanish chronicler Bernal Diaz would later write that they were so stunned by the city's beauty, they wondered if they were dreaming. You watch from a rooftop as they enter, a river of steel and iron flowing into the heart of your world. Moctezuma, adorned in splendor, meets Cortés and houses him and his men in the lavish palace of his father. For a week, an uneasy peace holds. The Spaniards wander the city, marveling at the markets, the temples, the sanitation systems that far surpassed anything in Europe. But they are also horrified by the evidence of human sacrifice, the racks of skulls and the blood-caked altars, which confirms their belief that they are in a land of devils. They are guests, but they are also prisoners, surrounded by hundreds of thousands of Aztec warriors in a city they cannot escape. Cortés knows his position is precarious. The illusion of his divinity is fading. The Aztec nobles are growing restless, questioning Moctezuma's hospitality. The city has become a golden cage, for both the Aztecs who have let the jaguar into their house, and for the Spanish who are now trapped inside it. The tension is unbearable. A single spark will ignite the entire city into a bonfire. The spark ignites during the festival of Toxcatl. With Cortés away dealing with a rival Spanish force on the coast, his lieutenant, Pedro de Alvarado, is left in command. Alvarado is a hot-headed, brutal man. Fearing an uprising, or perhaps simply wanting to strike first, he makes a horrific decision. As the Aztec nobility, the city's best warriors and leaders, gather unarmed in the great temple's courtyard for a sacred dance, Alvarado orders his men to seal the exits and slaughter them. The courtyard becomes a bloodbath. Men, women, and children are cut down without mercy. The sound of drumming and song turns to screams. News of the massacre spreads through the city like wildfire. The spell is broken utterly and irrevocably. These are not gods. They are murderous butchers. The city, which had been passive, erupts in a tidal wave of fury. Every citizen becomes a warrior. They grab stones, spears, and atlatls. They swarm the palace where the Spanish are barricaded, their roars of rage shaking the very foundations. When Cortés returns, he finds the city in open revolt. Moctezuma, now a Spanish puppet, is sent to the rooftop to calm his people, but they stone him, rejecting him as a traitor. He dies days later, either from his wounds or by the hands of the Spanish. The golden cage is now a death trap, and the Aztec people are determined to tear it, and its occupants, to pieces. Trapped and starving, the Spanish decide their only hope is to escape Tenochtitlan under the cover of a stormy night. On June 30th, 1520, they attempt a desperate breakout. They muffle their horses' hooves and build a portable wooden bridge to cross the gaps in the causeways that the Aztecs have destroyed. They load themselves down with plundered gold and jewels, strapping bars of it to their armor. But an Aztec woman fetching water sees them and sounds the alarm. Suddenly, the night explodes. War drums thunder from the top of the Templo Mayor, their sound carrying across the entire valley. Canoes filled with warriors swarm the causeways, raining arrows and spears on the fleeing column. The portable bridge collapses. Weighed down by their greed, hundreds of conquistadors and their Tlaxcalan allies are dragged from the causeway into the dark water, where they drown or are captured for sacrifice. The retreat becomes a frantic, horrifying slaughter. Cortés himself survives, but he loses over half his men, thousands of his Tlaxcalan allies, and all the treasure. At dawn, having reached the mainland, he allegedly collapses beneath a tree and weeps for his losses. This is La Noche Triste, the night of sorrows. For the Aztecs, it is a glorious, bloody victory. They have cast out the invaders. They believe the nightmare is over. But they are wrong. The greatest enemy was not the man who wept, but what he left behind. The Spanish are gone, but a new, invisible enemy now walks the streets of Tenochtitlan. It arrived with one of Cortés's men, an African slave infected with smallpox. Your people have no name for this disease. You have zero immunity. It begins with a fever and racking pains. Then come the pustules. They erupt all over the body, joining together until the victim is a single weeping sore. The pain is so intense, many cannot move or even turn their heads. The stench of death and decay fills the pristine city. It spreads faster than a fire in a dry field. Entire families are wiped out in their homes, their bodies left to rot. No one is left to grind corn or bring water. The city starves. The plague does not distinguish between warrior and priest, noble and commoner. It fells the new emperor Cuitlahuac, who had led the glorious victory of La Noche Triste. It kills a staggering percentage of the population. Some estimates say up to 40%, in a matter of months. The social fabric of the empire disintegrates. The priests have no explanation. The sacrifices stop because the priests themselves are dying. The gods are silent. You look at the pustules and call them the tears of the gods, a divine punishment. But this is not a punishment. It is biology, a weapon more devastating than any cannon or sword, and it is hollowing out your empire from the inside, leaving it a fragile shell, ripe for the final assault. While your city writhes in plague-induced agony, Cortés regroups. He has received reinforcements, and his Tlaxcalan allies remain loyal, their hatred for you stronger than their fear of the Spanish. He does not attack immediately. Instead, he wages a new kind of war. He has his men build a fleet of 13 brigantines, small, fast warships, and launches them onto the lake. Your canoes are no match for them. He seizes control of the water, cutting off the causeways. Food and fresh water can no longer enter Tenochtitlan. The siege begins. For 80 days, the city suffers. The smallpox has already decimated your warriors. Now, starvation and thirst join the assault. The people eat lizards, weeds, and the leather from their shields. They drink the brackish water of the lake. Yet, under their new, young emperor, Cuauhtémoc, they fight with breathtaking ferocity. They fight house by house, street by street, temple by temple. As the Spanish and their allies advance, they must tear the city down block by block. The once beautiful canals are choked with rubble and corpses. The final battle takes place in the Tlatelolco market, a scene of desperate, hand-to-hand combat amidst the ruins. On August 13, 1521, Cuauhtémoc is captured while trying to escape in a canoe. With his capture, the last resistance crumbles. The silence that falls over the ruins of Tenochtitlan is the silence of a dead world. Come back with me now to the ruins where we began. The Templo Mayor is being torn down, its sacred stones used to build a Christian cathedral. The city on the lake is being filled in, its canals paved over to create the streets of a new capital, Mexico City. The world you knew is gone, not just defeated, but erased and rewritten. The fall of your empire wasn't a simple story of brave conquistadors versus savage natives. It was a perfect storm of factors. It was a story of technology, where steel and gunpowder met obsidian and cotton. It was a story of politics, where an empire built on oppression was consumed by a civil war ignited by a handful of outsiders. But more than anything, it was a story of biology. The decisive blow was not struck by a sword, but by a virus. An army of 500 men did not conquer an empire of millions. An empire, weakened by internal division and then shattered by a pandemic, collapsed upon itself. The survivors are now subjects in their own land. Their language, their religion, their very identity is being suppressed. Yet it does not die completely. It bleeds into the culture of the conquerors, creating something new, a mestizo civilization born from this violent, tragic collision. The gods of the Aztecs may be silent, but their blood, their food, and their spirit endure in the people and the land today, a permanent echo of the city that was once considered heaven on earth.